So Allison Barrlett is Head of Public Affairs at McDonald's UK. She graduated from Leicester in '95 with a degree in politics. Joined McDonald's UK as Head of Public Affairs in September 2011 following a practice group director role at PR and PA agency, which is difficult to say, Ketchum Pleon. She arrived at Ketchum in 2008 after 6 years as Head of Government Affairs for the Association of British Pharmaceutical Industry, where she was responsible for all UK and EU government relations. As I'm sure you're aware, McDonald's are a key sponsor, IOC partner of the Olympics. For the Head of Public Affairs to be taking a day off 3 weeks before the Olympics, and for this to be a day's holiday for her is exceptionally generous. So let me welcome Allison Barrlett. Thank you.
It's quite nice to have a day off from the Olympics. So I don't want any awkward questions about obesity in the Olympics, thank you. I have to do that day in, day out. So yes, I'm the oldest out of the alumni. I'd like to point out that Stu was my year as well, so he's as old as I am. And I guess things have probably changed, but it's a real pleasure to be here. I think when Stu said, could I come and speak, I had an idea it might be 15 students. I thought, well, maybe I could inspire them. 115 academics is slightly different, so apologies if I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but these are just my thoughts. I'm surprised to be here because when I first graduated in '95, I really didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. I knew I was interested in politics. I had a massively inspiring professor who, I think he retired a couple of years ago. Emma and I were just talking about him. Professor Bob Wolfrick in politics. He was just an inspiration in terms of understanding the academic side of things, but also supporting you in terms of allowing you to think through opportunities. And if you had an idea, he was always willing to listen and say, don't think that's going to work, but what about doing this? Oh, that's fantastic, and how can I help? So Bob really opened my eyes to the academic side, but I needed to do something a little bit more practical. And one of his great passions was electoral systems, which I know sounds deathly boring, but I am a bit of a geek, and so I really was interested in electoral systems. So when I got to the third year, I wrote off the Electoral Reform Society and said, can I come and work for you? Obviously, I'm not going to get any money. That's a standard course these days, but in those days, you still expected a little bit of money. And can I just understand what you do? What does a sort of a lobbying campaigning organisation look like, and what do you do day in and day out? So I did that for all my holidays during the third year. And it taught me a lot. It helped me to articulate my views and my arguments, but I think crucially it exposed me to new people and new arguments and made me a little bit stronger and a little bit more confident in myself. We hear all about the value of networking. We talked about it a little bit today, and I think it was probably when I was at the Society that I honed down those skills. I used to hate going up to anybody that I didn't know, but now, frankly, everybody is in the same boat. I always say to the young graduates that I work with, no one knows any more than you do. They're standing there looking like a lemon as much as you are. Why don't you just go and make the first move? So that's what I did, and I got a lot out of that experience. And so by the time I left Leicester, I had a really tough decision to make. I had an offer to do a stage, so an internship with the European Commission out in Brussels, or I just accepted an offer to do an MA at the Scarman Centre. And we're going back so long ago, it wasn't even called the Scarman Centre. I think it was the Public Order Institute. I can't remember now, Centre. And I really didn't know what to do for best. I didn't know what was going to give me the most experience and how that would help me on my career path, mainly because I didn't really know what my career path was. So I thought I must find somebody else who knows a little bit more than me. So I spoke to Bob. But I also tracked down a lady that I'd met for all of 5 minutes at one of these parliamentary receptions I'd been at with the Electoral Reform Society. I steeled myself, I rang her up, thinking she won't remember me from Adam, and she probably didn't, but she was really nice about it. And I asked her what she thought, and she was a lobbyist, and that's probably the first time that lobbying really came into my mind. We had a good chat about it, and in the end I decided I would go to Brussels. So that was when my academic career finished, really. So she talked me through it, and the upshot was I went to Brussels and she became the MP for Rochdale in 1997. And she just helped me have an outside perspective. Now, we discussed this a little bit this morning. I think what Bob was saying was really inspirational. I was the first person in my family as well to go to university, so I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't know what I would get out of it, and frankly, until I was about 15, I'd never even contemplated going to university. I always thought that that was something you had to do if you wanted a certain career. So you wanted to be a doctor, you wanted to be a teacher, you had to go to university. And it was only when a couple of parents of a child I was babysitting for, who were teachers, just said to me when I was about 15, "What are you going to do at university?" And I said, "Oh, I don't want to be a teacher, I don't want to be a doctor." And they just looked at me and said, "Do you want to carry on learning? Do you enjoy learning?" And I was like, "Well, yes, of course I do." And that was the first time, really, I thought about going to university. So it meant that when I got here, I really relied on my group of friends and my tutors to help me, to really support my choices and to just give me a bit of guidance. And I think, you know, that's the role you guys play day in, day out. My mum always says, I should be pleased you got a mention, my mum always says, "Didn't you do well? Didn't everyone you know goes to Leicester, who went to Leicester, do well?" And actually all my mates, who I'm still extremely good friends with, they have all done really well. But over the years, I've met loads of other Leicester graduates, some of them who are older, some younger, and they've all done fantastically well. So I just thought I'd give you a sort of a sample. And they're all kind of in my field, because that's obviously why I've come across them. But we've got, well, 2 people actually in the McDonald's press office, 2 young girls, one a history graduate, one an English graduate, both doing fantastically well. I wasn't involved in employing them, so nobody can accuse me of favouring Leicester graduates. The new head of comms for Microsoft UK, Leicester graduate, I think a year or 2 years above me, did history. The head of comms at the Royal College of Surgeons, tough gig, possibly not as tough as the gig for the guy who headed up all the comms for the General Medical Council all through the Shipman inquiry. I'm not sure he's ever got over it yet, but he did history or English, I think a year above me. And somebody who I've become great friends with, who I met through work, is the Global Head of Government Relations for Apple. So I was pleased to see Apple part of your new advisory panel. All great jobs and all Leicester graduates. And just building on what Bob said, I think it's the fact that everybody does come from a diverse background that's absolutely fantastic about this university. You know, I interview loads of people, but it's the people who are down to earth and come from lots of different backgrounds that really make me think I could work with you. They're going to be the team player that I need. So I thought I'd just build on this a little bit and talk to you about what I look for in young graduates. Of course, I want them to be articulate and demonstrate that they can be a team player, that they're willing to be flexible and not focus solely on themselves, but are really going for the overall task. And that hardly will come as a surprise to you, but what makes a difference for me is when you see somebody who has a genuine passion. Somebody who's got a passion that can light a room. And I know that is a well-worn cliche, but it's true. Somebody whose enthusiasm is absolutely infectious, so when they walk out, you know everything there is about them and you want to work with them. Somebody who can get the rest of the team motivated and exciting. And it doesn't have to be a passion for something related to the job. It could be a passion for environmental work or volunteering in the local community. It could be a passion for something that I or the interviewer absolutely loathes. That doesn't matter. What matters is that it's an indication that they seek out and make opportunities, that they've got that driven type of personality you need in a team. The room lights up because they radiate energy. And this is a new expression I learnt at the weekend. They're not energy vampires, which I thoroughly enjoy. I'm going to be throwing that into every presentation I do now. So we don't want energy vampires, because those are the type of people who will push projects through and they will inspire teams at the same time. A rare commodity sometimes. They're people who bring opportunities to the workplace by the experiences they've discovered outside. And I was thinking about Emma, who's just joined McDonald's on our press team, and so she actually interned for me, so I did know her before, at my old agency, and then she got a job at McDonald's way before I did. And she did English here, and I asked her what drives her, because she's going great guns, she's a real pleasure to work with. And she said, you know what, it's getting out of Dartford. She grew up in Dartford, she hates Dartford, she just felt that she had no opportunities there, and for her, university and then building on that is what's made all the difference. And it's working, because I'm doing her appraisal next week, and she's going to have 2 options. She's either going to go to Leeds, which, believe me, apparently is better than Dartford, and head up some regional comms work for us, or she's going to go to Australia. So it'd be up to her. There would be career options for her that would both be brilliant, and both will be within our system and we will support, but she's not going back to Dartford. So I do feel a bit of a fraud standing here, because it's such a long time since I was at university that I don't really know how seminars work anymore, or kind of what type of support is available. But what I would say, and we've heard it already today, is if you can help your undergrads package up the skills. So if they are to present to a seminar group, get them to think about how I would view that they're a strong, confident presenter. Or if they have to identify gaps and issues as part of their course, then that's problem solving. Get them to reflect the same language that employers use. And support them in networking. I can't overdo this one. It's something I definitely learned when I was at university. And I've run several courses over recent years with young graduates who absolutely, they don't want to go near a reception or a meeting because they don't know what to say. And I always say, look, I'll go with you. I'll go to the opening of an envelope. I know no more than you. But get them to understand what the value is, and you will see them grow in confidence as you do. And they will eventually understand that potential value. And encourage them to volunteer, whether it's in an area that they think that they're going to end up working in, or whether it's something that they can legitimately package up as a set of skills further down the line. And most importantly, challenge and encourage them to develop their passion. And I thought I'd finish by telling you about my stage and how I did get that offer from Brussels when I couldn't decide where to go. And actually, I went to the career service, and I hate to say it, but it was the one and only time I went to the career service. And a piece of paper fell out of the book whilst I was fiddling around in the civil service section. And I'm clearly not somebody who was made to go into the civil service. And this piece of paper flew out, and it literally landed on my foot. And I looked at it, I thought, what's this? And it told me all about the stage. And I thought, I fancy that. It's something I'd never heard of, but I thought it could open some doors. And it was an interesting piece of paper, but it also told me how hard it was to get accepted onto this scheme. And I knew enough about politics by that point to see that this was a lobbying opportunity. I guess this is why I've turned out to be a lobbyist. And I had enough confidence from doing all the other things that I've just talked about, the Electoral Reform Society and everything, to realise I was going to have to pick up the phone to somebody that I didn't know and convince them that they wanted to help me. So I did that, and yes, I did get the stage. And the person on the other end of the phone is now the McDonald's lobbyist in Brussels. So it's a small world, and don't piss anybody off.